Nothing and nobody will ever hurt you again after this. There comes a moment in your life when you finally realize the power to stop being hurt has been within you all along. It's not about building walls or becoming cold. It's about understanding that no one can wound you unless you hand them the knife. The truth is, pain often comes from expectation, expecting people to be loyal, kind, or honest just because you are. But when you stop expecting yourself and others, you stop bleeding from their absence of empathy. The day you release your attachment to outcomes, the day you stop demanding validation from those incapable of giving it, that's the day you start healing. You realize that peace isn't given to you by the world, it's chosen by you. Every time you refuse to let chaos inside your soul, you teach people how to treat you by what you allow. Every time you accept less, explain more, or tolerate disrespect just to keep the peace, you're silently teaching them that your peace is negotiable. But the moment you say, no more, everything changes. The people who truly value you will adjust. The ones who don't were never meant to stay. Boundaries aren't walls. They're gates. They don't keep love out, they keep poison from coming in. The most powerful thing you'll ever do is stop giving access to those who use your kindness as an entry point to drain you. Remember, walking away isn't weakness. It's wisdom learned the hard way. Detachment, that's your superpower. It's not about being emotionless. It's about being emotionally intelligent. You can love deeply, but without clinging. You can care genuinely, but without losing yourself. You can walk away silently and still wish them well. When you master detachment, you become untouchable, because no one's actions dictate your peace anymore. You no longer need closure. Your calm is your closure. You no longer need validation. Your self-awareness is validation enough. The less you react, the stronger you become. Because sometimes silence is not weakness, it's the loudest form of self-control. And when pain comes, and it will, don't see it as punishment, see it as redirection. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every rejection was a divine nudge pushing you back to yourself. You weren't being destroyed, you were being refined. Life was stripping away everything that wasn't real, so you could finally meet who you truly are beneath the wounds. Pain was never your enemy, it was your mirror. It showed you the parts of yourself still begging to be healed. And once you stop running from pain and start learning from it, it loses its ability to control you. Because in the end, when you choose self-respect over connection, peace over people, and solitude over chaos, you become unshakable. You stop chasing explanations. You stop proving your worth. You stop waiting for apologies that will never come. Instead, you build yourself into someone who no longer crumbles when someone leaves or lies or disappoints. You stand tall, calm, and freed. Not because the world changed, but because you did. The same situations that once broke you now bore you, because you've outgrown the pain. You've outgrown the noise. You've outgrown needing to be understood. You are finally safe within yourself. And when you reach that point, when you no longer beg to be seen, when you no longer need to be chosen, when your peace becomes your top priority, nothing and nobody will ever hurt you again. Not because the world became softer, but because you became stronger. You stopped being reactive and started being rooted. You stopped trying to fix others and started protecting your own energy. You stopped chasing love and started embodying it. That's real power, not control, not revenge, not walls, but peace so deep that nothing external can disturb it. That's when you finally realize if freedom isn't found in avoiding pain. It's found in no longer letting it own you. And from this moment forward, you promise yourself, never again. The day you stop expecting, you start healing. There comes a day in everyone's life when you finally grow tired of being disappointed. When you realize that the pain you've been carrying didn't come from love itself. It came from expecting love to look like you. You gave loyalty and expected it back. You offered kindness and thought it would be reciprocated. You believed honesty would be met with honesty. But that's not how the world always works. The hardest lesson you will ever learn is that not everyone has your heart, your depth, or your intentions. And when you finally accept that truth, that's when healing begins. Because the day you stop expecting others to act like you is the day you free yourself from endless disappointment. Expectation is a silent contract we write in our minds that the other person never agreed to. We assume that because we treat someone with love and care, they owe us the same. We assume that the world is fair, that effort will always equal reward. But life doesn't operate on fairness. It operates on awareness. People can only give from their level of emotional capacity, and some are simply not capable of giving what you deserve. The moment you stop demanding emotional maturity from the emotionally unavailable, you stop being drained by their indifference. You stop waiting for people to understand you and start understanding yourself. That shift, from external expectation to internal understanding, is where peace begins to grow. You've been hurt not because people are cruel, but because you believed their potential more than their patterns. You kept expecting change where consistency in behavior screamed otherwise. You stayed hoping they would realize your worth, while they showed you again and again that they didn't value it. Healing begins when you take people off the pedestal of who you wish they were and start seeing them for who they are. When you stop expecting depth from the shallow and truth from the deceptive, you stop being shocked by their actions. You start saving yourself from unnecessary pain. The peace you've been searching for isn't in being loved by others. It's in being free from needing them to. The day you stop expecting is not a cold day. It's not the day you turn numb or heartless. It's the day you choose maturity over fantasy. You begin to understand that love doesn't always mean staying, that care doesn't always mean connection, and that some people come into your life to teach you boundaries, not forever. You start letting go of the idea that people owe you closure, explanation, or redemption. You stop chasing after why and start embracing what is. That's when the healing deepens. Because healing is not about forgetting what hurt you, it's about remembering it differently. Without bitterness, without attachment, without the need to rewrite it. Expectation also creates control, and control creates anxiety. When you expect someone to behave a certain way, and they don't, your peace shatters. You start overthinking, doubting, wondering if you're not enough. But when you release control, you make space for acceptance. You learn to observe people instead of forcing outcomes. You let actions speak instead of clinging to words. And that's where true strength lies, not in controlling others, but in mastering your reactions to them. The less you expect, the more you notice reality for what it is, not for what you want it to be. You become emotionally lighter, freer, and more grounded in yourself. When you stop expecting, you also stop explaining. You stop trying to make people see your heart, because those who truly see you won't need convincing. You stop begging to be understood, because understanding yourself is enough. You stop chasing relationships built on potential and start investing in those built on peace. You learn to detach with love, to walk away without resentment, and to love people without losing yourself. This is not weakness. This is evolution. It's what happens when pain turns into wisdom and experience turns into discernment. Life becomes softer when you stop expecting others to carry your emotional weight. You start giving yourself what you kept waiting for: validation, respect, love, and consistency. You realize that expecting others to fill your emptiness only deepens it. But when you give yourself everything you once begged for, you stop being needy. You become whole. You start walking differently, speaking differently, existing differently. Your peace no longer depends on who stays or who leaves. You can wish people well and still let them go. You can forgive them without welcoming them back. You can love them from afar without reopening old wounds. That's what emotional freedom looks like. So, the day you stop expecting is the day you finally breathe again. The weight of other people's promises no longer sits on your chest. You stop waking up, waiting for someone to make it right. You stop giving your joy to those who can't handle it. You start realizing that your peace, your worth, and your happiness are not group projects. They are personal responsibilities. You become softer with yourself, but stronger with your standards. You no longer need people to change for you to be okay. You simply choose to protect your energy, your heart, and your mind. And when that day comes, when you finally release the burden of expectation, you'll understand that you were never broken, just too attached to things that were never meant to stay. You'll see that healing didn't come from someone apologizing or fixing what they broke, It came from you realizing you no longer need them to. That's when your peace becomes permanent. Because nothing can truly hurt you when you no longer expect anything outside yourself to make you whole. That is the day you stop expecting, and that is the day you truly start healing. You teach people how to treat you. By what you allow every relationship in your life, whether it's romantic, family, friendship, or professional, is a reflection of what you tolerate. The way people treat you is not just a reflection of who they are. It's a mirror showing what you've allowed. You can't always control people's behavior, but you can control your boundaries. The truth is, you don't lose people when you start respecting yourself. You lose those who benefited from your lack of it. Every time you stay silent when you're disrespected, every time you forgive without change, every time you explain what's obvious, you teach them that your limits are flexible. And when your boundaries are flexible, your peace becomes negotiable. The day you stop allowing what hurts you, you stop teaching others that you're okay with pain disguised as love. You've been conditioned to believe that kindness means endless tolerance. That understanding people means excusing their actions. But there's a dangerous line between compassion and self-betrayal. When you constantly justify bad behavior with, "They didn't mean it," or "They're just going through something," you slowly erase your own self-worth. You begin to shrink yourself to make room for their disrespect. But here's the truth. Every time you make excuses for how someone treats you, you write a manual teaching them that you'll keep accepting less. You don't have to fight or shout to set boundaries. Your silence, your absence, your withdrawal from toxicity, that's the loudest message you can send. The way people treat you is the standard you set. If you keep forgiving the same disrespect, you're not kind, you're giving permission. Love is not about enduring pain. Love is about mutual respect. And the only way to earn that respect is to stop rewarding people for hurting you. If they know they can lie, ignore, or manipulate you and still have access to you, they'll never learn accountability. You can't teach someone respect by tolerating their disrespect. You can only teach it by walking away when it's missing. You are not responsible for how others act, but you are responsible for what you accept. Setting boundaries doesn't make you heartless, it makes you whole. The people who truly value you won't be intimidated by your limits. They'll appreciate them. Boundaries aren't walls to block love, they're gates to protect it. You have to decide what behaviors are acceptable and what are not. The moment you do, you'll notice the energy shift. Chaos leaves when clarity enters. You stop feeling anxious about being misunderstood because you're no longer living to please. You stop chasing after being enough because you realize that being enough for the wrong person will always feel like too much. Boundaries teach people how to love you correctly. Without them, even the best intentions can turn toxic. You must also understand that people treat you according to how you treat yourself. If you constantly neglect your own needs, ignore your intuition, or downplay your worth, others will too. Self-respect is the foundation of all healthy relationships. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. It's saying, "I refuse to participate in anything that costs me my peace." The moment you make that choice, you take your power back. You stop being reactive and start being selective. You stop trying to prove your worth to those who are blind to it. The respect you want from others must first come from you. People follow the example you set, not the words you say, but the energy you embody. Sometimes you fear that if you set boundaries, you'll lose people. And yes, you will. But you'll lose the ones who only stayed because you made life comfortable for them while it was suffocating you. You'll lose the ones who only valued your silence, your compliance, and your forgiveness. And that's not loss, that's liberation. The right people will never be offended by your standards. The wrong ones will label them attitude, because they can no longer manipulate you. Don't shrink to be liked. Don't bend to be accepted. The moment you start enforcing your worth, you'll start attracting people who naturally honor it. Teaching people how to treat you is not a one-time declaration. It's a daily practice. It's saying no without guilt. It's walking away without explanation. It's refusing to repeat yourself when someone clearly hurt you the first time. It's choosing solitude over disrespect. It's not easy at first, especially if you've spent years being the peacemaker, the forgiver, the one who keeps everything together. But peace built on your pain is not peace. It's a performance. When you stop performing, you start living. You realize that silence isn't weakness. It's strength wrapped in dignity. You understand that your boundaries are not barriers. They're protection for your peace. So, teach them. Teach them that you will not answer disrespect with explanation. Teach them that your time and energy are privileges, not obligations. Teach them that you can forgive, but you will not forget who deserves your presence. Teach them that your love is strong, but not blind, that your kindness is deep, but not endless, that your patience is wide, but not eternal. Because once people realize they can no longer cross lines without consequence, they begin to either respect you or remove themselves, and both are blessings. The truth is, you don't need to make anyone respect you. You just need to stop giving access to those who don't. The moment you do, everything changes. Your relationships become calmer, your mind becomes clearer, and your heart becomes lighter. You stop being drained by people who take and never give. You stop begging to be treated right, because now you demand it. Silently, through your actions. You teach people how to treat you by the way you treat yourself. And when you finally choose self, respect over approval, peace over presence, and growth over guilt, you'll never have to beg for respect again. Because people can only mistreat you to the level that you allow. The moment you decide you deserve better, the world adjusts. Your detachment is your superpower. There comes a moment when you realize that your peace is far more valuable than proving your point, winning arguments, or forcing people to understand your heart. That moment, when you stop chasing, explaining, and overgiving, is when your detachment begins to grow. Detachment is not about being cold or heartless. It's about reclaiming your power from everything that once controlled you. It's the quiet strength of no longer allowing external chaos to disturb your internal calm. You learn that you can love someone deeply and still walk away when they disrupt your peace. You can care about people, but refuse to carry their emotional baggage. Detachment isn't distance, it's dignity. It's the understanding that you can wish people well and still let them go. When you master detachment, you stop being ruled by outcomes. You no longer panic when things don't go as planned or when people disappoint you, because you've learned that what leaves your life is never meant to destroy you. It's meant to redirect you. The power of detachment lies in trust. Trust in yourself, in timing, in life's unfolding. You no longer grip tightly to what's slipping away, because you've discovered that forcing anything only brings frustration. You start to flow instead of fight. You start to observe instead of react. You start to choose peace over control. The less you try to hold on, the more everything begins to align naturally. True detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. You no longer need to be validated to feel worthy. You no longer beg to be understood. You no longer need constant reassurance to feel secure. Your confidence no longer depends on someone's approval or attention. You become emotionally self-sufficient. You realize that no one else is responsible for your happiness. And that realization frees you. You start to feel lighter, calmer, and more centered. You stop trying to fix people who refuse to change because you understand that healing is a choice, not your duty. You stop rescuing those who only drown you in the process. Detachment teaches you how to love without losing yourself. The opposite of detachment is attachment, and attachment is the source of most suffering. You suffer because you cling. You cling to people, to memories, to expectations, to identities. You hold on to what's familiar, even when it hurts, because you fear the unknown. But when you finally let go, when you stop defining yourself by what or who you've lost, you start breathing again. You realize that the world doesn't end when someone leaves. You learn that endings are not failures. They're chapters closing to make room for new beginnings. And the more detached you become from external outcomes, the more you discover the freedom of simply being. You stop needing everything to make sense and start trusting that every experience, good or bad, is shaping you into someone stronger and wiser. Detachment is a silent revolution inside you. It's the day you no longer feel the need to argue, prove, or chase validation. You begin to value your peace more than being right. You stop explaining your boundaries to those committed to misunderstanding you. You realize that your energy is sacred, and not everyone deserves access to it. When you become detached, manipulation loses its power. Guilt stops controlling you. Approval stops motivating you. You begin to move with quiet confidence, rooted in your own clarity. You no longer seek closure from others. Your calm becomes your closure. You no longer chase apologies. You find peace in acceptance. And people will notice this change. They'll say you've become distant, emotionless, or selfish. But what they're really saying is that they can no longer control you. You've stopped reacting. You've stopped feeding their chaos. You've stopped giving them emotional access to your energy. Detachment makes you unpredictable, and that's what makes you powerful. Because no one can manipulate someone who's not seeking approval. No one can break someone who no longer needs to be understood. You've learned that silence is your best response and withdrawal is your strongest weapon. You no longer fight for attention. You attract peace. Through detachment, you start to see the world differently. You no longer take things personally because you understand that everyone's actions come from their own level of consciousness. When someone disrespects you, you don't internalize it as your fault. You see it as a reflection of their own chaos. You stop absorbing energy that doesn't belong to you. You protect your mind like sacred ground. You become emotionally neutral, not numb, but stable. You feel deeply but don't react impulsively. You speak less but say more. You choose your battles wisely, often choosing none at all. You learn to respond from wisdom instead of wounds. That is the essence of emotional mastery, and that's what detachment gives you. Detachment also brings clarity. When you stop obsessing over people and outcomes, your intuition becomes sharper. You start seeing red flags without painting them white. You start hearing the truth behind people's words. You begin to recognize what aligns with your peace and what disturbs it. You make decisions from strength, not desperation. And most importantly, you stop settling, not because you're cold, but because you're finally clear. You know what you bring, what you deserve, and what you won't tolerate anymore. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer beg, you choose. You no longer lose, you release. And that's the real power of detachment. It turns pain into perspective, chaos into calm, and loss into liberation. You stop defining your worth by who stays, and start honoring yourself for having the strength to let go. You no longer need revenge, validation, or attention. Your peace becomes enough. You no longer search for happiness. You embody it. Detachment doesn't make you invincible, but it makes you untouchable by the things that used to destroy you. Because when nothing external controls your internal world, you are free. So, protect that peace. Guard that stillness. Master the art of letting go without anger, of loving without attachment, of caring without obsession. Because when you finally understand that detachment is not disconnection, it's divine protection, you become unstoppable. Your energy shifts, your presence strengthens, and your silence becomes your most powerful language. You no longer chase peace, you are peace. And in that moment, you realize your detachment is and always will be your greatest superpower. Pain is not punishment. It's redirection. Pain is not here to destroy you. It's here to wake you up. Every heartbreak, betrayal, failure, and disappointment you faced was never meant to punish you. It was meant to guide you back to yourself. The problem is, when pain arrives, most people see it as a curse instead of a compass. They ask, why me? Instead of asking, what is this trying to teach me? But the truth is, nothing in your life has ever happened to break you. It happened to shape you. Pain is life's most honest teacher. It strips away illusions, exposes truth, and forces you to confront the parts of yourself you've ignored. It may not feel like a blessing while you're bleeding, but one day you'll look back and realize it was the moment everything changed. Not because you found comfort, but because you found clarity. Pain arrives to reveal where you've been lying to yourself. Maybe you stayed in places that were no longer meant for you, tolerated people who drained your soul, or chased things that were never aligned with your purpose. So life intervened. It broke what wasn't real. It removed what you wouldn't release. It hurt you not to punish you, but to redirect you. Sometimes what feels like rejection is protection. Sometimes the ending you resisted was the beginning you needed. Pain is life's way of saying, this path is not for you anymore. You can resist it, cry through it, fight it, but eventually, you'll realize it was never there to defeat you. It was trying to set you free. The reason pain feels unbearable is because it challenges your attachments. Your attachment to how things should be, to the people you thought would stay, to the plans you were sure would work out. But the more you resist change, the more it hurts. Suffering doesn't come from pain itself. It comes from holding on to what life is asking you to release. Once you stop asking, why did this happen? And start asking, what is this showing me? The suffering begins to dissolve. Every heartbreak becomes a message. Love yourself deeper. Every failure becomes a signal align with something greater. Every loss becomes a lesson. Stop chasing what's already outgrown you. Pain is not cruelty, it's correction. It's how the universe redirects you toward growth when comfort keeps you stagnant. At your lowest, when everything falls apart, you're being invited to rebuild from truth, not illusion. Pain breaks the version of you that's no longer aligned with your purpose. It removes your masks. It shatters your ego. It brings you face to face with your real self, not the one you show to impress others, but the one who's been waiting underneath all along. Pain says, you've been pretending for too long. It pushes you out of denial and into awareness. That awareness hurts, but it's pure. It's the kind that forces transformation, and transformation never happens in comfort. Growth is born in discomfort, in the sleepless nights, in the moments you feel forgotten, in the silence after the storm. Those are not punishments, they are awakenings. If you look closely, pain also humbles you. It teaches empathy. It softens your pride. It makes you kinder. Before pain, you might have judged others easily, chased perfection, or believed you were in control. But pain reminds you that everyone is fighting something unseen. It breaks your arrogance and builds your compassion. It teaches you that strength isn't about never breaking. It's about how gracefully you rebuild. You learn to carry your scars not with shame, but with gratitude. Because those scars are proof that pain came, but it didn't win. It hurt you, but it didn't hollow you. It broke parts of you that were never meant to stay. Pain also clears your path. Sometimes when doors close, it's not because you failed. It's because you were being redirected to something better aligned. Life will not let you settle in places that are beneath your potential. If you ignore the whispers, life will send storms. If you ignore the signs, it will send pain, because pain is often the last resort to get your attention. When you start to see pain as redirection instead of rejection, everything changes. You stop chasing after things that fall apart. You stop mourning what's gone and start preparing for what's next. Pain doesn't mean something's ending. It means something higher is beginning. The truth is, you cannot grow without pain. Every version of your higher self requires a version of you to die. Your insecurities, your fear, your need for validation. Pain is the fire that burns away the false parts of you, so the real you can emerge. You'll notice that after every painful experience, you come back clearer, stronger, wiser, and more grounded. That's not coincidence, that's transformation. You don't heal by avoiding pain. You heal by walking through it and letting it teach you. Because pain that is ignored repeats itself, but pain that is understood releases you. So, stop asking for a painless life. Ask for the strength to grow through what hurts. Ask for the wisdom to see the lesson before it becomes suffering. Ask for the courage to trust that what left was never meant for your next chapter. Every time you're tempted to see pain as punishment, remember that gold is purified by fire, diamonds are formed under pressure, and your soul is strengthened through struggle. You are not being punished. You are being prepared to rise, to lead, to love with depth, to live with clarity. One day, the pain that made no sense will be the reason you're unshakable. You'll realize that life didn't break you, it built you. That every ending carved space for your evolution. That every heartbreak taught you self-worth. That every disappointment pushed you closer to alignment. Pain was not your enemy. It was your greatest ally in disguise, because it stripped you of everything temporary and left you with what's eternal, you. So, the next time pain knocks, don't resist it, sit with it. Listen, let it teach you, let it redirect you. Because pain is never there to destroy you. It's there to reveal your power, to strengthen your spirit, and to remind you that sometimes, losing everything is the only way to find yourself again. Pain is not punishment, it's preparation. It's transformation. It's your redirection back home to who you were always meant to be. When you choose self-respect over connection, you become untouchable. There comes a time when you finally understand that not every connection is worth keeping and not every bond deserves your loyalty. You reach a point where you've had enough of chasing people who make you feel unseen, enough of fighting for places that drain you, enough of giving chances to those who never value them. That's when you begin to awaken, when you finally choose self-respect over connection. It's one of the hardest but most liberating decisions you'll ever make, because, for most of your life, you've been taught that love means holding on, that understanding means forgiveness, that kindness means tolerance. But there's a deeper truth: love without respect isn't love. Forgiveness without change is enabling, and tolerance of disrespect is self-betrayal. The day you choose self-respect over attachment, your entire life shifts. You stop settling for relationships that insult your soul. You stop explaining your worth to people committed to misunderstanding it. You stop craving connection at the cost of your dignity. Choosing self-respect doesn't make you cold. It makes you clear. You stop begging to be chosen because you've already chosen yourself. You no longer romanticize inconsistency or justify mistreatment under the name of love. You realize that connection built on your silence, your sacrifice, or your suffering is not connection, it's control. You stop mistaking intensity for intimacy, attention for affection, and crumbs for care. You begin to see that real connection doesn't demand your self-abandonment, it honors your boundaries. And the moment you stop betraying yourself to keep someone else, you become untouchable. Because the one thing no one can take from you is your self-respect. Once you decide to never trade it again, there's a quiet power in walking away from what disrespects you. You no longer react, you release. You stop chasing closure because you understand that peace is closure. You no longer seek validation because you know your worth isn't up for debate. You stop explaining your side of the story because you realize your energy is too sacred to waste on those who twist it. You stop showing up for people who never show up for you. When you prioritize your peace over people, you might lose a few connections, but you'll gain yourself. And that's the most valuable relationship you'll ever have. It takes courage to choose self-respect, especially when your heart still cares. Because your heart will whisper, maybe they'll change, while your soul knows, you deserve better. The tug-of-war between attachment and awareness is painful. But every time you choose yourself, you strengthen your spirit. You start realizing that peace is not found in who stays. It's found in your ability to let go. You no longer chase people, you attract those who value your presence. You no longer fight for love, you embody it. You no longer break yourself to fit into places you've outgrown. You become rooted in your worth. And that foundation makes you unshakable. When you choose self-respect, your world becomes smaller but purer. You lose the loud, draining connections, and you attract the quiet, meaningful ones. You stop being surrounded by people who take advantage of your empathy and start meeting people who appreciate your energy. You start choosing solitude over forced company. Silence becomes your peace, not your punishment. You realize that loneliness isn't being alone. It's being surrounded by people who make you feel unseen. The moment you'd rather be alone than disrespected. You've mastered emotional maturity. You stop tolerating half love, half effort, half truths. You stop settling for people who only come when they need you. You start standing so firm in yourself, worth that anyone who doesn't honor it simply fades away. Choosing self-respect also transforms your mindset. You no longer see rejection as failure. You see it as redirection. You no longer take people's behavior personally. You see it as a reflection of their character, not your worth. You stop needing apologies because you learn to forgive without letting them back in. You stop explaining your boundaries because you realize that those who truly value you will never need them justified. Self-respect gives you emotional control, and emotional control is power. It's the quiet confidence that says, I know who I am, and I won't shrink for anyone. It's the peace that no one can steal, the calm that no argument can shake, the strength that no rejection can weaken. There's something magnetic about a person who respects themselves. They don't chase, they attract. They don't compete, they elevate. They don't cling, they choose. When you value yourself deeply, the world reflects that back to you. People sense your boundaries before you even speak them. You radiate calm because your worth no longer depends on external validation. You don't need to prove your value. Your energy already does. You become the person who doesn't need to be loud to be noticed, who doesn't need to be chosen to feel enough, who doesn't need to be loved by others to feel complete. That kind of power can't be manipulated, can't be controlled, can't be broken. It's pure, self-created peace, and that's what makes you untouchable. And yes, choosing self-respect will test you. You'll have moments where you miss people who disrespected you, where you crave the comfort of the familiar, even when it was toxic. But every time you're tempted to go back, remind yourself why you left. Remind yourself of the pain of being unappreciated, unheard, unseen. Then look at where you are now, at peace, in control, free. That's what self-respect gives you, not constant happiness but unshakable peace. The kind of peace that doesn't depend on who texts you, who stays, or who leaves. The kind that comes from knowing that you will never abandon yourself again. In the end, choosing self-respect over connection is not losing love. It's finding real love, the kind that starts with you. Because when you love yourself enough to walk away from what doesn't serve you, you tell the universe, I'm ready for something better. And it listens. Better people, better opportunities, better energies start to align with you. Because when you stop settling, you make space for what truly belongs to you. So never apologize for choosing yourself. Never feel guilty for walking away from what disrespects your soul. Never let loneliness convince you to reconnect with what hurt you. The moment you decide that your peace matters more than pleasing others, you become powerful. You become untouchable. Because real strength isn't found in who you hold on to. It's found in who you refuse to lose yourself.